For nearly 80 years, one currency ruled them all. From oil trades in Saudi Arabia to gold prices in London, one green piece of paper decided the fate of nations. But what happens if that paper loses its power? What happens if the US dollar loses its global throne? After World War II, the world was in ruins. Economies were collapsing, and global trade needed a lifeline. That lifeline was born in 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement. At a small conference in New Hampshire, world leaders decided that the US dollar would become the backbone of the global financial system. Why? Because America had something no one else did. Gold reserves, military dominance, and trust. Every major currency was pegged to the dollar, and the dollar itself was pegged to gold, $35 for 1 ounce. That meant the dollar was as good as gold. The world accepted it. The dollar became the world reserve currency. For decades, countries used it for trade, savings, and international loans. From Europe to Asia, everyone wanted dollars because it was safe, stable, and powerful. Sound, triumphant orchestral music. The US economy boomed. The dollar became more than just paper. It became a symbol of dominance. But power always comes with a cost. By the 1970s, America was spending more money than it had, on wars, on defense, and on expansion. The promise that every dollar could be converted to gold became impossible to keep. In 1971, President Richard Nixon made a historic decision. The U.S. will no longer convert dollars to gold. The gold standard was dead. But something strange happened. Instead of collapsing, the dollar grew even stronger. How? Through oil. The U.S. made a secret deal with Saudi Arabia and other oil-producing nations. All oil sales must be done in U.S. dollars, and thus was born the petrodollar system. If any country wanted to buy oil, it needed dollars. And to get dollars, they had to trade or borrow from the U.S. This single deal gave America decades of economic control. Every country stored U.S. dollars in their reserves. The global demand for dollars skyrocketed, fueling American power, prosperity, and privilege. Sound, jet engines, cash counting, Wall Street bell ringing. But under the surface, other nations were watching and waiting. As the 21st century unfolded, a new generation of superpowers began to rise. China, India, Russia, and others were tired of playing by America's rules. They started asking, why should we rely on the dollar for everything? China launched the Yuan internationalization program, promoting its own currency for trade. Russia began selling oil and gas in rubles and yuan instead of dollars. The BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, started working on a new common currency. Meanwhile, digital technology opened another front. Cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and decentralized finance began to challenge traditional systems. Sound, glitching digital tones, rising techno-beat. For the first time in nearly a century, the dollar faced real competition. Countries began to diversify their reserves, holding more gold, more euros, and more yuan. Sanctions against Russia after the Ukraine war only accelerated the trend. When the U.S. blocked Russia's access to the dollar system, SWIFT, other nations realized, if it can happen to them, it can happen to us. That moment changed everything. The dollar's dominance gave America immense power, but also immense responsibility. When the U.S. prints money, the whole world feels it. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, developing nations' debts explode. When the U.S. imposes sanctions, entire economies can collapse overnight. For decades, the world accepted it. But now, patience is running out. Nations are quietly building alternative systems, new payment networks, new alliances, and gold-backed trade mechanisms. The BRICS Bank is lending in local currencies. China and Russia are testing cross-border settlements without using the dollar. Even U.S. allies like France and India are conducting trades in other currencies, thunder rumbling, rising orchestral music. The cracks are widening. If the trend continues, the dollar's share of global reserves, currently around 58%, could fall below 50% within a decade. That might not sound catastrophic, but it would shake the world economy to its core. Let's imagine a world where the dollar is no longer king. Inflation in America. Without global demand for dollars, the US can't print freely. Prices of imported goods, and from electronics to oil, would soar. Everyday Americans would feel the pressure instantly. Higher interest rates. With fewer countries buying US debt, the government must raise interest rates to attract investors. That means loans, mortgages, and credit cards all become more expensive. Stock market shock. US assets could lose their safe haven status. Investors might shift towards gold, yuan, or digital currencies. Geopolitical power shift. The end of dollar dominance means the end of US leverage in global politics. Sanctions would lose effectiveness. Alliances could shift. The world could become more multipolar, divided between several economic powers. It doesn't mean America collapses, but it would lose its greatest invisible weapon, the power to control global money flow. Experts disagree. Some say the dollar is simply too strong to fall. The US still has the largest economy, the deepest financial markets, and the most trusted institutions. No other currency comes close to replacing it, not even China's yuan, but others warn, dominance never lasts forever. The British pound once ruled the world before the dollar took over. History shows no empire and no currency stays on top forever. The question is not if the dollar loses its throne, but when. In the near future, we might not see one dominant currency, but many. A world where digital dollars, digital yuan, and gold-backed currencies all coexist. A decentralized global economy, less predictable but more balanced. Technology, geopolitics, and human ambition will shape what comes next. The dollar's fall doesn't mean America's end. It means a new chapter in how the world values money, power, and trust. The dollar built an empire, but empires rise and empires fall. In the end, it's not the paper that holds the power. It's the belief behind it. So the real question is, when the dollar's throne begins to crumble, what currency will the world bow to next?